Hey everyone, good morning. Dr. Gabe Roberts, the subconscious healer here. Today I want to talk to you about um, why symptoms can become chronic, why symptoms oftentimes do become chronic. And this is really important to point out because what we understand about chronic pain has changed over the last decade. And this change has come in such a way that uh, information trickles down very slow. Paradigms are very sluggish and very slow to shift. And oftentimes, I'll even say this: science shows us a way, an answer for a problem that we've had, and yet other dogmatic sciences, okay, don't like that answer, so it doesn't get trickled into the mainstream. It doesn't get exposed to the public as quickly as it should, because let's face it, there's a lot of status quo that is preventing this information from getting out because of just routine, how things have always been. Um, it's easier to manage than to cure a client. So if you manage a person, you probably get the idea. You lose a customer for life. Okay. Um, I, and as well as a small other group of professionals, recognize this chronic pain, this epidemic of chronic symptoms for what it is. It's swallowing us all whole. Chronic pain now outnumbers heart disease, diabetes, and cancer combined. So it's a significant problem. Why do things become chronic if it's such a problem, right? If it's such a problem, uh, why don't we have better answers for this? And there are many reasons. But the way that symptoms become chronic have to do with two things, always. The first one is fear. Fear. So when a person has a symptom and they usually try to handle it themselves. So if they wake up and they've got a stomach bug or something like that, maybe they will rest. Maybe they'll take some kind of over-the-counter vitamin C, or maybe an antacid, something to try to relieve the symptom. And when that doesn't happen, they oftentimes will go see a practitioner of some sort, a chiropractor or a functional medicine doctor or a medical professional, a family practitioner of some sort. They'll go see someone and attempt to get this symptom under control. And this is where the road starts to kind of change, because the symptom oftentimes will be interpreted by the doctor as some kind of problem. They'll say it's, maybe a stealth infection, or they'll say that it's some kind of structural problem with the digestive system, or a structural problem with your back, structural problem with your neck or your shoulder, or it's your hips causing sciatica, whatever it is, a pinched nerve, whatever it is, all these different routines that they will label as the problem. There'll be some kind of treatment offered. And because the treatments are working on surface level issues, because they're working on surface level issues, oftentimes within a month or two, maybe 3 months, maybe even within a day or a week, the symptom returns, or another symptom returns. This is when the person starts to kind of worry. They've had this symptom for a while. They tried handling it on their own. They went to a professional. Now the symptom's returning. Guess what happens? Fear, 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 more worry, more doubt, more frustration. So they start Googling their symptoms. They start researching of, what could be causing this. And I will say this: no one ever feels better after researching their own symptoms. They always feel more fearful. So the first thing that happens is they start to feel more fearful about their symptoms. When the brain feels danger is imminent, whenever it feels that there's a threat response active, the brain actually turns off all the healing mechanisms, and it actually will start to conserve energy, and it actually will start to become very, very sensitive. So what happens now is the brain feels like there's a threat response because of all the fear and all the worry and all the doubt and all the frustration, everything they're Googling, everything they've been told. This ultimately makes the symptom or reoccurring symptoms much worse. Now the person has fear and they're focusing on their symptom. They're always thinking about it. They're always putting their attention on it, thinking worst case scenario. Okay, this article said it could be this. This doctor said it could be that. I'm doing the things, taking the work, taking the supplements, taking the chiropractic adjustments, whatever it might be, and the symptoms go away for a while, then they come back. Now there's a lot more fear, there's a lot more frustration, there's a lot more focusing on it. And what happens is, through the neuroplastic process of the brain's learning, those symptoms begin to get learned by the brain. That's right, the brain can learn to keep symptoms on. And so when this happens, the fear, the frustration, the worry, the doubt, all becomes kind of a lens of how the person is looking at their body. At the same time, the brain is wiring and firing and wiring and firing all of this in, and eventually the symptoms get worse and worse and worse. And what happens is now they start going to specialists. They start moving to different areas, not moving their house, but they start going to different locations to see different practitioners. Maybe they go to a different clinic in a different area, spending lots of money looking for answers on what's going on with their symptom. All the while, they're fearful and they're frustrated and they're focusing on the symptom. And chances are very high that the doctor's not going to even recognize any of this. The doctor's not even going to tell them, hey, your brain is really, really scared. It feels threatened by these symptoms. And because it feels threatened by these symptoms, the symptoms are ongoing. Now, this routine happens. People go see more specialists. They go see more doctors. They sometimes fly out of their own state, spending lots of money on more practitioners, more specialists. And because the specialists, the doctors, all that are still routinely working on their physical body, not addressing their brain being in threat response, the symptoms continue to build and get worse and get worse and get worse. And now that fear translates into terror. It translates into full out hopelessness. It translates into a version of a person who feels like they're broken. Nobody can figure it out. There's no hope for them. And that really paves the road for why a person has chronic illness. Oftentimes, the doctors and professionals, once you go from seeing like a chiropractor to a neurologist or a family practitioner to a cardiologist or et cetera, you start seeing specialists. Now you're working with practitioners and doctors who they only work with sick people. They only work with the sickest of the sick people. So their idea of spontaneous remission or idea of healing just is not something they're aware of. Actually, quite the opposite. And they will translate this into nocebo suggestions, such as what you have is permanent. Nobody heals from this. This is chronic. You'll have it forever. Get used to it. It's going to be part of your life. Learn to live with it. We can only manage the symptoms. You can't get rid of the symptoms. You can only manage them. Nobody heals from this. We can't figure out what's going on. That's one of my favorite things to hear, by the way. When a client tells me the doctors can't figure out what's going on with me, I'm always thrilled to hear that. I'm always like, well, let's start here. Let's start by teaching your brain safety. Let's start by giving your brain messages of safety, because that's ultimately the way to neutralize that fear, that terror, that worry, that doubt. The only way to neutralize that is with safety, with understanding, with realizing that the brain actually creates every sensation in the body. The brain can determine how fast your white blood cells move and the shape of the neuropeptides, the shape of your certain chemistry markers within your own body. Your brain determines every bit of that. Your brain controls everything about your body. So if your brain is in a state of complete fear, terror, worry, doubt. You'll have this forever. There's no hope. Doctors are telling you there's no hope. That right there is the foundation of what lays down why a person goes from having a symptom into a person that has a chronic condition. And once you can start understanding that it is the brain, and you start conveying messages of safety to the brain, the body starts to respond, the body starts to feel better, the symptoms start to turn off. When a brain feels safe, a body feels great. When the brain feels threatened, worried, fearful, doubtful, you best bet the body is going to reflect that as well.